Hi everyone, and welcome to Solution Challenge Info Session. This event is hosted by Developer Student Club Victoria University in collaboration with DSE, the University of Adelaide, DSE McGill University, and DSE Monash University. My name is Dedi, and I'm happy to be here with you all. I'm the DSC colleague and the president at Victoria University. And today I will be the host. As host, I would like to mention few things before we go further. That this event is recorded and streaming on DSCVU YouTube Live. The recording will be posted after the event. If you don't want to be recorded, you are welcome to turn your video off. We would very appreciate if you keep your video on. Also, there will be some screenshots during the events for documentation. And please mute your audio unless you are going to speak so we don't hear any background noises during the event. Next, I would like to welcome our speaker. We have four speakers here and I will call them one by one and then they will introduce themselves after that. First, we have BJ from Victoria University. Hi BJ.
Hi, Didi. Hello, everyone. It's me, BJ Sigdil. I'm the DSC lead here at Victoria University. I did my master's in Applied Information Technology. I have already completed it. I completed last June. And I'm running this club, Developer Student Club, Victoria University, as a lead now. And we are running some interesting events regarding Android and now Solution Challenge. Yeah, that's all.
Thanks BJ. Next, we have Bo from McGill University. Hi Bo.
Hello, how's it going? My name is Bo, of course, as it was just mentioned. I'm the lead at Macquarie University. I'm really excited to present some slides a bit later on. I'm really excited about all kinds of things, software. I'm currently, into that space as far as it goes, as in like I've worked in business capacities doing some software stuff. And I'm really excited to try to get myself an engineering job. But that requires lots of coding, so lots of practice, and that's what we're all here for.
Okay, that's awesome. Thanks Bo. Next, we have Adi from the University of Adelaide. Hi Adi.
Hey everyone, I'm Aditya Pujara. I'm the DSC lead for the University of Adelaide, and I'll be presenting the Solutions Challenge with everyone else today. Looking forward to seeing your submissions for the Solution Challenge and developing some cool things for the world. Thank you.
Thanks Adi. And the last speaker, we have Paul from Monash University. Hi Paul.
Hi all, it's very nice to meet you. I'm studying a Bachelor of Engineering, Software Engineering and Finance double degree. And yeah, I'm really also keen to see what you guys can produce for the Solution Challenge.
Okay, thanks Paul. Thank you again all for the wonderful introduction. Today, we are going to talk about what is Solution Challenge, what are the United Nations 17 Sustainable Development Goals, what are the Google technologies that we can learn and build, then what are the timeline, judging criteria and prices for this challenge, and what are the available resources that we can use to help us while we are building the solution. Next, we will have a Q&A session. You are welcome to turn on your mic or use the Zoom chat box to ask question, or you can private chat to me and I'm happy to read it for you. Then we will end up by talking a little bit about our next event plan, which is Solution Challenge, Design Day, or Hackathon. Now, let's get started with the agenda and let's welcome our first speaker, Paul.
So, can we go to the next slide, please? So, I will be talking about the 2021 Solution Challenge in the respect of the Sustainable Development Goals. So, if you look at this screen, what you can see is the Sustainable Development Goals. So there's overall 17 goals that we're looking at in total. So for me, the first 9 are no poverty, zero hunger, good health and well-being, quality education, gender equality, clean water and sanitation, affordable and clean energy, decent work and economic growth, and industry, innovation, and infrastructure. So someone else will talk about the remaining 8 challenges. But for these first 9, and in fact for all of them, they're actually available if you just Google the Sustainable Development Goals on the website. So if you click onto any of these challenges, you can read about what the challenge entails, what you can do about it, and how you should address the challenge, and some previous example projects of how these challenges have been attempted. And this is all just available on the website, which I will link in the Zoom call, and I can provide a link to later on as well when we upload the videos online. And yeah, I think that's it for me. I think someone else is going to talk about the remaining 8 challenges.
Hey everyone, it's Addy, DSC lead from Adelaide. I'll be continuing on from where Paul left off. Thank you, Paul. So basically, the remaining sustainable development goals that we'll be going over today, and just for your reference, these sustainable goals are, like Paul mentioned, available on the website, and these are the ones that you'll be developing for, because these have been mentioned by the UN as things that we need to work on. So continuing on from where Paul left off, industry, innovation, and infrastructure. So relating to the economic development, industry development to do with tech and production, reduced inequalities within our democracies, within our countries, sustainable cities and communities. So instead of looking at, cities with the current structure, we could be looking at smart cities, lower emissions and things like that, which you can develop on. Next, we're looking at responsible consumption and production. So, anything to do with responsibly consuming consumer products, not overconsumption, maintaining the production levels and things like that. Anything to do with that space as well. Climate action. So, as we all know, currently we're facing a climate crisis around the globe, and it's not very sustainable. Definitely not. So, definitely we need to work on things to improve the climate conditions. And so, climate action is another topic that is available. Next, we have life below water and life on land. So, respecting and improving life in both spaces, on land and below water. Peace, justice, and strong institutions and partnerships for the goals. So we're looking at trying to maintain peace and harmony between countries, and also strong institutions, meaning that we're looking at stronger democracies and things like that. And then partnerships for the goals include everything to do with partnering with organizations and such, and making sure that all of these goals in some way or the other are achieved. So these were the sustainable goals. Now, there are a variety of technologies that you can use for your solutions challenge. So you're not limited by anything. So, you can look into, you can follow this link and look at all the Google products available. And so just to give you an idea, we have several technologies available from Google that are readily available for your solutions challenge. Android and Kotlin, if you've been with us for the Android sessions that we've been hosting, we'll also be hosting those in the future. So if you've been with us for that, and if you plan to be with us, we'll be going over Android technologies, development within Android Kotlin, using the language Kotlin, which is supported by Google for Android development. We have Flutter, Firebase. So this is Flutter, Firebase, TensorFlow. It's usually used for development in the AI space. We've got Cloud Console, Go as a programming language made by Google, Angular, which is a web development language. We have the Google Artificial Intelligence Assistant. We have Google Cloud, and the Google Suite that we commonly use for Mail, Calendar, Drive, etc. So the timeline. So I know we're all really excited and want to step in straight away, but there are a couple of things that we need to go over before we jump in straight into the development phase. So the first couple of things that you need to look into before you start developing or looking at solutions would be to look under everything that's under getting started. So to get started, you first need to be a member of Google Developer Student Clubs. So there are quite a few online here, including myself. I'm a DSC lead for Adelaide. We've got DSC leads from Monash, Melbourne, Sydney, and all those Macquarie, and all those different universities all across Australia that you can join. And all of them are involved with the Solutions Challenge in one way or the other. And we'll be happy to support you. So joining a student developer club is highly it's required, but also highly recommended as well, because you'll be getting a lot of support from the leaders and also from the members itself, because we've got highly trained and specialized members involved. Next, we're looking at registering for the 2021 Solutions Challenge by submitting the form in this link. So you can go over to this link. It's a Google Doc, and we can share that in the chat. Hopefully Vijay or Didi can share that in the chat so everyone can see what we're talking about. But this form, once you fill that out, you're basically into the challenge. So it's required that you fill this form out before you start developing anything. Next, it's also really important to have a team. So remember to get yourself a team, not only because to get yourself support, but also because we know that you are all in the university. One way or the other, you'll be running out of time. It's you know, the solutions are announced in May, so you're looking at, you know, submissions by March 31st. It's very close. So it's important that you work with the team so that you can get more support and also develop amazing things for the world. So step 4 is development using one of the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. So if you want to go to the previous slide over here, these are all the sustainable development goals that we talked about today. It's important that you consider at least one of them for your solutions challenge, primarily because we're solving something for making a change globally. And so for making a change globally, who better to follow than United Nations? I mean, they have identified all these problems already, so why not just solve them? And so that's why Google is looking into finding solutions for these. And so when you're getting started, look at a solution or a problem from the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, and then identify a solution for that problem in the design and build phase, so that you can then jump into learning and building. So if you're developing a website or, you know, an application, an Android app, or anything in between, you'll be looking at two things. You'll be looking at the front end, which is where users can interact, and you'll be looking at the back end. Now, it's up to you how you divide this upon your teams, and it's not necessary. Like, you don't have to follow a strict procedure of how to do front end, back end. But it's recommended that you have some sort of a layer where the users can interact. So looking into design, front-end interface, and back-end technology so that you can build large-scale applications that can support the world. Next, you're looking at testing your solution and then iterate. So what we mean by iterate is that in no way would your product be ready when you first test it. And we all know this. If you're programmers, we all know that, you know, something works for a couple of minutes and then it just stops working after that. So if that's the case, you don't have to worry at all. Just iterate. Just go back to the stage where you're learning and building. Identify where your program didn't work. Build and design the different interfaces relevant to your technology. So front end, back end, then test it again. If it doesn't work, go back, and so on and so forth. So keep iterating, keep modifying your solution up to the point where you think it's perfect to hand into submissions, and then you're good to go. Giving this over to the next DSC lead, who will be going over the submissions and other suggestions related to judging criteria and such. Thanks.
Thank you, Eddie. Okay, So after we build the solution, then we need to submit the solution. For submitting the solution, first we record a demo video, which can be of 2 minutes long. And we need to submit it using using a link that we will provide it to you afterwards. The link submission link will open from March 1st and it will close on the March 31st. Based on the solution provided by all the participants, there will be a panel of judges from the Google. They will review the solution and they will announce the top 50 solutions by the end of May, or during the month of May. And once the top 50 solution finalists are announced, they will have the opportunity to get the mentorship from the Google developers and Google developer experts. They will have the opportunity to get the mentorship for 2 months, and where they will get all the guidance and resources from Google. And they will utilize this time, the team will utilize this time to take their solution to the next level, and they will resubmit the solution. Okay, and based on that resubmission, again the judges will go through the different judgment criteria. They will review all the submission, and they will announce the top 10 finalists by July. And these top 10 finalists, they can they are allowed to participate on the demo day, that is 2021 Solution Challenge Demo Day, which will be occurring on August. And on the same demo day, top 3 winners will be announced, and there will be prizes for the winners, for the top 50, top 10, and top 3 winners, even the participants. And this is how we'll celebrate the 2021 Solution Challenge. Moving on to the next slide. So there will be a panel of judges from Google who will be responsible for the for judging the solution challenge for the top 50, top 10, and the top 3. They will be judging based on 2 main criteria. First is the impact, and the second is the technology. Impact: how impactful your project is, how impactful is it to the real users. So impact carries 60 points. Similarly, technology: how well you are implementing Google technologies to build up the solution. How well have you demonstrated about the use of that technology in the demo video. All these things carries out 40 points. So going into the impact, as a team, we need to establish the clear challenges regarding the solution, right? So how well you have established the challenges, focusing on one or more of the focusing on one or more of the United Nations 17 Sustainable Development Goals, it will carry 10 points. Similarly, how effectively does the solution you have developed, you as a team have developed, and how effectively does it address the challenges that have been identified by you, by your team, it carries 20 points. And do you have any plan for future extension regarding the project? If yes, and if you can justify it, you will get another 10 points. And have you tested your solution with the real end users? For example, suppose you are developing a flood app that will help to monitor the flood in a certain community, in a certain river. Okay, then have you tested that app with the community people? If yes, and if you can justify it, then you will get 10 points. And if people have used your app before, then obviously they will have some feedback. And have you worked on those feedback? If yes, and if you can justify it, then you will get extra 10 points. So altogether it's 60 points. And moving on to technology, does the solution implement all the technical components needed to solve the challenge? For example, um, um, in your solution, it might be required to develop a website which will help the users to solve that problem, right? And and it might be needed to develop the admin panel as well. Okay, and have you developed that admin panel? All these things, have you developed all the technical components that is required for the solution? If yes, then you will get the 10 points. And how clearly have you explained the Google technologies being used? For example, if you are using Kotlin to develop the Android app, develop that solution, then how clearly have you explained about it? And have you include the guidance or documentation to run your app or website? These things carries 10 points. Similarly, does your video demonstrate the working solution and how a user will interact with the solution? For example, how to use the app or website that you have built. Have you included that in the demo video? Does it highlight the Google technologies that are being implemented? And does it highlight the value of these technologies in developing the solution? Does it highlight all these things? If yes, then it carries 10 points. Similarly, how effective is your product? Does it work well with the real users who will be using your app to solve their problems? And how efficiently have you taken the decision as a team? How efficiently have you taken the decision for the solution? This carries 10 points. Okay, so altogether it's 100 points divided into impact, how impactful your project is to the real users, and divided to technology, how appropriately are you using the technology, are you implementing the technology to build the solution? It carries 40 points, and altogether it's 100 points. And coming to the prizes, there will be prizes for the participants, for the top 50 teams, for the top 10 finalists, and for the top 3 winners. For the participants, they will receive a Google Developer Digital Profile badge, and they will also receive an official certificate of participation from the Google. And for the top 50 teams, they will have the opportunity, as I have already mentioned, they will have the, once top 50 solution are finalized, they will have the opportunity, they will get 2 months of mentorship from the Google and Google Developer Experts, and they will get the time, they will allow this time to take their solution to the next level. Okay, so this is the opportunity they will get. And for the top 10 finalists, they will receive additional mentorship, they will receive swags, they will also get 1 year subscription, full subscription of Pluralsight, where they can watch different videos, tutorials to learn the new skills. They will also have the opportunity to showcase their solution. As I mentioned before, in the top 10 finalists, they will present or they will showcase their application or solution in the Google Demo Day, Solution Challenge Demo Day 2021, which will be occurring on August. And it will be live on YouTube, and they will be presenting this to Googlers and developers all over the world. Okay. And coming to the top 3 winners, we have a special prize for top 3 winners. They will receive a Chromebook. It's a laptop which can be used for web surfing and for carrying out simple tasks. And they will also have the opportunity to have a coffee chat with one of the Google executives. And they will also get the opportunity to be featured on the Google Developers blog, which I think is really a good opportunity. And these are all the prizes we have. And with that said, I will pass on to Boo.
Hello, how's it going? My name is Bo. I'm the DSC lead at Macquarie University. Really excited to get this solutions challenge up and running. It's going to be pretty cool, I think. Most importantly, getting a chance to have a private meeting with some of Google's executives would be pretty awesome. I'd say that would be a great thing to put on your resume, and would also be probably one of the best, kudos you can drop in an interview. Pretty good story to have, so it'd be awesome to win, definitely. So we're going to offer a bit of online mentorship and support to help you guys with the DSC Solutions Challenge. I understand, like myself, and like many of you, might not have a lot of experience in organizing an actual team. There's a lot that goes into that just to begin. And then we have to, come up with the solution. You have to implement it. We have to build the technology stack. There's a lot that goes into it, but most importantly is step by step. If you can break it down into a series of steps, it's going to make it a lot easier for you. And so that's where we come in with the mentorship, is that if you get stuck, feel free to reach out, and we're always happy to help. So reach out to your local DSC chapters, reach out to, if you're on Discord on there, make a comment, start a conversation and ask questions, and that's the best way to go forward. We also have a platform, the Pathfinder platform, and it's an online community that is set up to people who are interested in working on the DSC Solutions Challenge to connect and collaborate, share ideas, and get help, of course, and mentorship. So all you need to do is register for the DSC Solutions Challenge. And before you do that, you just need yourself a team together, and the teams are going to be teams of 4. However, if you want to have a team of 3, 2, you want to be a one-man band, it's up to you, I think. Obviously, having 4 team members is probably what you're after. More hands equals better, hopefully. So the kinds of things we can get on Pathfinder as far as support, important what you're, I imagine, technical support, mostly around Google products. So as I said, you want to use Firebase as your database. You've only ever used SQL during maybe a university unit, and it's your first time with it. It's slightly different to standard SQL, and so there's a little bit of wrapping your head around. In fact, it's designed to be easier to deploy scalable databases with Firebase, but there's a little bit of wrapping your head around it still, and so that's where the technical support comes in. There'll also be feedback on your ideas. So, I think it's better to have more ideas than less, and feel free to share them. And if people really shut you down for it and say it's a terrible idea, well, maybe it is a terrible idea, or maybe you're not explaining it correctly. And so that's a point for you to decide, hey, look, maybe I'm just not getting out what's in here, out there, correctly, and people aren't listening to me. So there's lots of different ways you can reflect on getting some feedback on your ideas, and then you can improve for next time. You can also get technical advice because, as I said, like a lot of you, it might be the first time doing such a task. There's a lot that goes into it. For example, setting up a GitHub organization to be the main repository and way of collecting all of your code and everything together. And that's going to require a bit of practice and learning if you haven't done that before. And so there's support for things like that if you need it. I think I can go to the next slide. Here we are. So we've also got self-paced code labs. They're really good. I enjoy it myself. I have worked through some of the Android ones myself. Some of them. I have built services for Google Assistant. So when you buy a product and it comes with a Google Assistant integration, and you can say magic word, I won't say it because it's going to start responding, and then issue a command, and that's going to execute something in your application. I pulled off that myself just following through a collab a year ago, and now I run my own home automation server on a computer. Built integration myself, which is pretty cool. And that's how the code labs help. Would have been pretty difficult otherwise, but it's really awesome. It takes you through step by step. Right, so oftentimes you might be looking at a YouTube video, or you might be looking at some documentation. A lot of those mediums are pretty good as they are, but maybe it's not exactly what you're looking for. Or importantly, you want to practice as you go. Oftentimes you may be at university, go to a lecture, and you spend an hour where they just hammer on a keyboard and show you a bunch of stuff. And then you get out of there thinking, well, that was very interesting, but how do I do that actually in practice? Well, the code labs are really good for that because they take you through doing it. So you learn by doing. You go through step by step by step by step until you end up with the finished product. So each of these code labs here on the screen, building an app with Flutter, you will build an app with Flutter by doing that code lab. By doing the build actions for Google Assistant, you will build an action for Google Assistant by going through that code lab. And maybe that might take you an hour. And by the end of that hour's track, right, you still might be a bit unsure on a few things, but you can always go back, look at the slides, look at the steps, and then start building your own thing. So they're really good for that. So for everything that you should need as far as Google technologies, there will be a code lab there. And that'll hopefully come in handy if you get stuck. The next thing that will be provided is a design sprint kit. So I guess design is a very complicated thing. Oftentimes people make jokes about it. You know, like I saw a joke recently that design, object-oriented design, for example, is the astrology of programming. Mainly because it does feel a bit like that sometimes. You know, we talk about the patterns and the strategies and this and that, and it sounds really like we start writing some codery, you know. But in fact, these design systems and patterns, they're to get to an end result. And most importantly, they help you to orient yourself. They help you to develop a step-by-step sort of system and routine about how to get to a destination. And most importantly, they don't just come from someone sitting there saying, look, I think this would be a really great way to build a product. That's not how these design systems come about. They come about because people have done exactly what you're trying to do before. They have set out to build apps. They have set out to build things for competitions, to solve problems. And along the way, they've struggled, right? And their struggles, they've learned lessons. And they've turned those lessons into real action steps and, you know, action plans that will help other people get towards the destination quicker and without getting stuck at those same hurdles. And so that's what the design sprint kit's for. So I kind of try and, or at least that's how we would recommend to you. Again, you're free to use any system, you're free to use any set of steps. You can go about it however you want, right? Phase one, we want to look at understanding the problem. Now, the reason why we want to understand the problem is because if you don't understand the problem, I don't even know how you're meant to begin defining the problem in the first place, right? It's very important. It's like when you start learning programming in the first place, right? Until you actually understand what you're doing, understand maybe what's a function, understand about variables, you can't actually start defining things. You can't actually start building real code, setting out a process to get there. That's what the understanding aspect. And that ranges from mapping out journeys or interviewing people. For example, you want to application navigate around without a walking stick using a phone. And that, it might be a good idea to go and meet with some people with ideas, etc., and get their opinions on the matter. And then lastly is experience mapping, and that is mostly about how people feel about a certain thing and how they experience a certain thing, and trying to understand that aspect. And then we move on to step two, the design process. And there's design principles, which is what I talked about before. And again, you usually start by understanding, and then you want to find the principles that you are going to adhere to. And that's going to help you actually keep going along, keep chugging along, right? You're also most importantly, and this is crucially important in, you know, any role in life, is to set some metrics and some signals. So how do we actually know that we've solved the problem? Or how do we know we're making even a dent in the problem? How do we know that? You know, say the issue is that, you know, I work at Netflix, and, you know, tens of thousands of users are spending too much time on a certain component of the UI, right? So we start measuring the amount of time that they spend on that UI, right? We make changes to the UI that we think will speed up how effective that UI is, how fast we get customers through certain parts of the application. And then we implement the code, remeasure. We remeasure how often and how long users spend on that specific part. Let's say it's the form where we enter in the credit card. We want people to be able to enter in their credit card information quite efficiently. So you're going to lose customers on the back end, right? And so that's defining a success metric. Then we say we want to reduce the amount of time that people spend on this form by 3 seconds. And you start measuring that, the success metric. The next stage is to start sketching out, you know, how you're actually going to build this solution. So how we actually, maybe you could start by sketching out a new UI, a new credit card information form, and say, okay, we think if we put the buttons here and we do a few little tricks there, it's going to make it easier and faster. You start sketching out a plan, right? And you collaborate with your team and whoever's necessary to get that done. And then the next stage is actually deciding on, maybe you sketch out 5 different prototypes. And you actually have to decide on which ones you might want to go ahead with. And that means presenting it to the users, for example. Or maybe if you worked at Netflix, you're not presenting to users, of course, but you're presenting to product managers, people that know the product well and have a vested interest in the product. And you present to them, right? And they say, look, we think design number 2 is really good. And you say, look, I think it's a good design too, and then you move ahead, for example. That's the deciding stage. We move on to the prototyping stage, and we actually start storyboarding out that journey, right? We start prototyping it. We start building tools necessary, right? We actually build the UI. It moves beyond the sketching and, say, the wireframe stage. We actually build it, we implement it, and then we get real users using it, right? We start mapping out that journey. We start trying to figure out how they're using it. And then finally, last but not least, and this is the most important thing, it's going back to stage 2, is actually validating our work, right? So if we've implemented this new component in our UI, and we see now that users are spending more time on the form, well, then that's been invalidated, right? It doesn't work. It clearly our solution is not serving the metric that we set out. So we have to go back to step 2, repeat, rinse and repeat, rinse and repeat. and then eventually get to the right solution, one that has a real world impact, people really like it, and it actually works, and you've hit the metric you set out to hit. So I guess how do we learn a bit more about these design systems and steps? Well, one popular method is to look at a solution exercise developed at Google Ventures called the Design Sprint, which is the one I just went through. Have a read over that, see if it's something that fits within your mental kind of image about how you might want to go about building a project. If it seems a bit too heavy, of course, scale it back. You don't need to implement this big, very complicated design system if it's unnecessary. So you can join this 5-day exercise design sprint. It's essentially going to teach you how to make use of this framework, how to adopt it, put it into practice, and most importantly, hopefully help you to feel like you know what's next. You know what you need to do, and you know the next step you need. And you can kind of map out each part towards getting towards a solution. It doesn't feel ambiguous. It doesn't feel uncertain. It feels like you know what you need to do each day. You can set out a plan, and then you can move on and work every day. And hopefully, within a certain time frame, you've built something really great that does something really great. And that's the purpose of having a design system there. And so we move on to the last thing, and I hope these videos don't play. That's good. So there's some tutorial videos as well to help. So if you're not really sure about, I guess, identifying problems, maybe it's the first time you've ever done that, but even myself, it's a very, when someone says identifying problems, it's like, it feels very ambiguous, and it's nice to have a specific framework around what, say, Google's after, as far as what solutions, what categories of problems they're looking for, like we talked about earlier. And most importantly, there's also going to be some tutorials on designing the interface of your application. What makes a nice UI and UX, maybe you've not had experience with that. And then also things like designing the technology stack. I mean, you can get carried away with technology stacks very easily, right? For example, you might use a very heavy framework to build a web app for your solution. And then that might be unnecessary. You might spend more time grappling with the framework than you do spend working, right? So maybe you want to go down the vanilla route, right? And stick to basics, depending on what you're trying to do. So a lot of these videos are going to give you a bit of ideas about how to structure that and best steps to take forward if you don't know what to do. And lastly, and this is really good because you might want to integrate AI into your application. For example, like I mentioned earlier, maybe you want to build a solution to help blind people navigate their surroundings using a smartphone camera. Now, that's going to require computing power. Not when the app's running. Well, of course it will when the app's running, but we need computing power to crunch some models, generally. And doing that on your own machine can get quite slow. For example, maybe it takes 24 hours to crunch a model on your computer, and it takes 1 hour on Google Cloud. Now, that's a big difference. And if you're trying to do rapid application development, sort of cycle, trying to be agile or whatever you want to call it, well, you don't want to be waiting 24 hours for your models to be returned back to you. So this is where the Google Cloud credits come in. Similarly, you want to deploy your project to the cloud, right? There's a lot of features of Google Cloud. It's a platform as a service that allow you to do a lot of things that would be slow, inefficient, difficult to do yourself. And the other thing is collaborating in a team setting often requires you to do things maybe in the cloud or in that sort of way, because you know you can't be relying on people going on your local web server running on your computer, for example. How are you meant to collaborate like that? So this is where using Google Cloud is going to help you a lot. You just need to register for the solution challenge. You need to make sure that you're eligible, of course, and you can check via the link there that you are. However, if you're in Australia, you are, so I can say that. Make sure that you've obviously formed your team, and you can have up to 4 students, as we mentioned earlier. And then around early February, so around about now, you're going to start getting emails with instructions on how to request and redeem those credits. And there's just one disclaimer, just make sure that only one student fills out that form because it might cause some issues otherwise. So now, most importantly, and I just want to stress, and this is the real learning exercise of cloud, one that I've learned myself. Be very careful with spinning up computes in the cloud. Be very careful with what you're doing. Don't start running something unless you know. It's really up to you, but be careful. It's really easy to burn your cache. It's incredibly easy to burn your cache. You work for a company, you click a button on AWS, and then you just burn $20,000 in 5 minutes. Just by mistake, right? It happens to like everyone at some point. Hopefully it's not going to cost you that much. You're not doing things that bad, but there might be a few times where you try to run a model. For example, you're building AI, and you just don't do it right. You maybe click the wrong button, and then you just waste $10 on that, you know. So be careful, as I said, with your credits, because you know, think of it as real money. It's not free computing. So if you burn all your credits, it's going to be tedious to finish your project. So yeah, that's my advice from experience. Thanks, guys. I hope you all really have a great time building some solutions, and most importantly, get into it. Like practice makes perfect, and this is probably one of the best ways to get a bit of visibility for yourself, to engage that creative thinking process, and to maybe experiment with some new technology. So that's it. That's for me. My name was Bo, of course, from Macquarie, and I hope you enjoyed my little spiel. I'll move on to the next speaker now.
Okay. Thank you, Paul, Adi, BJ, and Bo for the wonderful sharing. It's very informative. As we know that Solution Challenge is the Google Developer Student Club's annual competition that invites university students to develop solutions for community problems using one of the Google products or platforms. 2021 Solution Challenge is the 3rd annual competition. We can take a look at the previous Solution Challenge outcome and see what they have done. We highly encourage you to watch this top 10 winner 2020 solution challenge videos to get an idea how they presented their solution, or you can watch 2020 solution challenge demo day video. All videos are available to watch in the resources link provided. Once again, if you are keen to join the 2021 Solution Challenge, please go to this link and you will immediately receive a welcome email from Google once you register. Now it's time for the Q&A. We are happy to answer your question, your any doubt. Okay, and let me take a look at the chat. Okay. At the moment, I do not see any question. Or you can unmute yourself and then you can speak directly to our speaker. Here we have BJ and Bo. They are happy to answer your any question. Okay, we have one question here. Let me read the question. Do we have to submit the completed project by 31st March, or is is it acceptable to submit a prototype? Okay, between BJ and Bo, who want to answer this question?
I will answer it. Um, do we have to submit the completed project by 31st March? Yes. Yes, we need to submit a demo video by 31st March. It's like we don't need to complete the whole project. We can submit a prototype, but we need to ensure that it's a working prototype. And as I have discussed the judgment criteria, as the panel of judges, they will go through all the judgment criteria and give the point based on each judgment criteria. So it's better if we can complete the project approximately, if we can make it usable to the real users, it's better. But if we can't complete the whole project until 31st of March, it's fine. We can submit whatever we have done. And as I've mentioned earlier, once we submit a prototype, not the prototype, we submit a demo video of the working project, and we are announced as the top 50 finalist, then we will have the opportunity to get the mentorship from Google and Google Developer Experts, and they will help us to redevelop this project and take it to the next level. And then we can resubmit it again for being the top 10 finalist and to the top 3 finalist. Yep.
Thanks, BJ. And we can see that we have another question. This question are similar, so maybe Bo, you want to answer this question? This is related with the how many numbers that we can have in the one team.
Yeah, so realistically, you can build something on your own. If that's really a game, you can really do that, but no more than 4, and probably try to stick to about 3 or 4. But if you're really struggling to find people to collaborate, or maybe you're already working on something on your own and you just want a place to submit it to, for example, that's totally fine. Don't worry about it. But no more than 4, though. Yeah.
Okay, and just to mention that we need to have at least 2 people in the group. So for the minimum, we have 2 people and don't exceed 4 people. Yes. Okay. So is anyone want to answer? Okay. Is any questions? Okay. Okay, it seems that everyone understood very well. So let's go to the next slide. Next, after this info session, we are planning to conduct solution challenge design day or hackathon in the next couple of weeks. Be sure to stay tuned with our DSC chapter or social media platforms so you get noticed when we publish this event. The purpose of this design day or hackathon is to give support to participants in identifying a problem, defining a user, and find a solution, including what kind of suitable Google technologies that will be used on front end and back end. At the end, the participant will get an idea on how to design the solution and their interface. Personally, when I knew about 2021 Solution Challenge, I was really excited to participate. This is a good opportunity where we can learn and build at the same time, where our solution can support one of the United Nations 17 Sustainable Development Goal Also, we have example from previous solution challenge and support from Google and DSC communities. It will be a very, very good chance for us to improve our portfolio as well. Additionally, we have swag, such as DSC t-shirt or cups for the first students from every DSC communities that register their team. It sounds good, right? So be sure not to miss this chance. And so yeah, time flies and we are at the end of today's session. Be sure to reach out to your DSC community, your DSC lead. They are very happy to help and support you, including how to build your team, how to connect with the others, like that. And we are very excited to see what you guys build. Thank you, everyone. That's it for today.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, guys. See you next time.